Hello, and welcome to the Spec Shaman Podcast, a show that explores the world of building product manufacturers, architects, and engineers, sustainable design, and technology and trends. We engage in thought-provoking discussions with renowned experts, industry pioneers, and visionaries who are making a significant impact in the construction industry. Join us as we explore groundbreaking ideas, revolutionary concepts, and the latest advancements shaping the built environment. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to the Spec Shaman Podcast. I'm your host, Megan Vipont. I'm joined today by Annette Starkweather, President and co-founder of FaceKey Corporation, Richard Prince, Customer Service Manager for FaceKey, and Brad Blank, co-founder of Elixir Environmental. They are here to discuss the advantages and security benefits of biometric systems. Hi, Annette, Richard. Hi, Brad. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Megan. Thank you for having us here today on the Spec Shaman podcast. Annette, Richard, and I look forward to a fascinating discussion on building security. As the old saying goes, the most expensive security system is the one you install after the breach. Buildings protect people from the elements, and security systems protect them from everything else.
Could you share your journey into the security industry and how your experiences have shaped your approach to modern building access control solutions?
So here's a little history. Back when Annette was first exploring biometric technologies, she was working with her business partner, Dr. Levitov, who is an expert in imaging and biometrics. And they noticed something that just didn't sit right with them. Most access control systems relied on cards. That was the standard back in the day. But cards can be lost, as we well know. An employee might be walking out to their car and accidentally drop it in the parking lot. Access cards can be stolen. They can be copied or shared. And Annette and Dr. Levitov thought, why are we still relying on a piece of plastic to secure buildings? It just doesn't make any sense. Annette and Dr. Levitov realized something simple but very powerful. You can't lose your face. Now, I know that sounds funny, but it's true. You can't forget your face at home. No one can steal it or clone it. Annette and her team knew that they could solve this critical problem for building security. They set out to do exactly that. And even years later, the team is still focused on eliminating these security issues. So here's the thing. Security in buildings isn't just about locking the doors. It's about protecting the people, the information, the assets, and operations within that building. Whether it's an office, a healthcare facility, a school, or a data center, each of these spaces has its own critical areas that needs to be safeguarded from unauthorized access. And think about this. Someone walks into your building, no badge, no clearance, and they just stroll right into your data server room. That's a disaster waiting to happen. You know what I mean? So one of the things that design professionals need to know is that modern biometric systems are not the same as those 10 or 20 years ago. The technology has changed dramatically. In today's best biometric systems, lighting is no longer a barrier. For example, a face in bright morning sunlight can be recognized just as easily as in a dark location. And unlike the older systems, today's reliable biometric solutions don't rely on inconsistent facial or fingerprint minutia points. These systems also don't require card readers. Face or fingerprint recognition alone does this job. So, there's still some myths that need busting that we're going to talk about today. Some people believe biometric systems are only for Fortune 500 companies, for high security environments. Other folks think they cost more than traditional card-based systems. But the bottom line is this, is that biometric systems are now accessible to everyone, from small businesses to global enterprises. And when it comes to cost, the best systems operate over standard networks. They eliminate the need for extra cabling and hardware for card readers. Plus, there's no cards to buy. There's no cards to manage. There's no cards to replace. And the surprising thing is, Megan, is that these card-based systems are still everywhere. They're the default for many building projects. And the long story short is it's time that changed. Design professionals have another more effective option.
In what ways do traditional card-based systems fail to deliver both convenience and strong building security?
Think about those old school access cards for a second here. Those little plastic things you swipe to get in. Those could get lost, they can get stolen, they can get loaned out to your friend who promised to give it right back. And even though the companies selling them love to shout out secure, here's the problem with that. The system only knows the card, not the person holding it. So if someone else has the badge, it can't tell the difference. The loophole makes it nearly impossible to reach the kind of security building owners really want. The bottom line is you just don't want to check, do you have a card? You want to check, who are you? And that's why you're seeing more places switch to biometrics. Think facial scans, so you can finally lock things down by confirming the identity, just not the ownership of a piece of plastic. And here's another thing we've been spotting lately is that integrators and the big access control brands keep piling up extra bells and whistles, multi-door panels, things like crazy wiring hubs and their own special hardware. That just jacks up both the material and labor cost. So by the end of 2024, industry surveys started flashing red. Owners and GCs are staring at skyrocketing project budgets without seeing really any boost in security. Now, here's the thing. Just because the system's got new shiny features and a bigger price tag, that doesn't actually mean it keeps you safer. Design professionals, building owners, and specifiers really need to dig in and they need to ask, is this improving who's getting in, or am I just paying for layers of extra complexity?
What are the most common risks associated with physical credential-based access control systems?
Great question, Megan. Now, think about it. Those card and fob setups, they have some obvious weak spots. The real kicker, they're physical. So if you lose your badge, someone takes it off your desk, if it gets cloned, and suddenly who knows who's wandering around your building. The system just reads the plastic. It actually never checks if it's you holding that plastic. So let's be honest here. Card management is a total headache, and it can really hit your wallet. Every time someone new joins, you have a new employee, you've got to order and reissue cards. When someone leaves the job, you're on the hook to track down their badge. And then there's the day-to-day chaos. People forget their cards at home. They lend their cards out, or the card reader decides it's on vacation and it's not going to read a perfectly acceptable card or badge. Annette, she has a friend who runs a small shop, and last month they dropped over $1,300 to buy a new set of cards. So now picture a modern system. It just says, hey, there's Alice's face, there's Bob's fingerprint, there's no plastic required. So with the cards, all you can do is hope the person waving that card around is actually the owner of the card. But biometrics, you can add somebody with the click in software, and if they leave, you can delete them just as fast. There's no more chasing down badges or shelling out for replacements. The best biometric systems have software that allows the managers to add employees and to instantly delete an employee from the system. So in the time it takes to report a lost card, your building security could already be compromised.
How does reliance on keys, badges, and cards create challenges for operational efficiency and long-term security in a facility?
When a key, a barcode card, or proximity badge vanishes, it's way more than a minor headache. It could be a full-blown ordeal. So suddenly you're rekeying doors, you're reprogramming panels, you're scrambling to print replacements, all of which, it eats up your time, it eats up your money. Then there's the admin grind. You're updating access logs, you're tracking who's got what, and you're hunting down old badges when folks move on. Often when someone slips through the cracks, maybe it's a contractor ghosted without turning in their card, or an employee who forgot theirs at the exit. Bam, you've got a active credential, floating around with nobody watching. So before you know it, your security's weaker, and this creates risks that are very hard to spot until there's a major problem. Here's the deal. Access control systems shouldn't become a money pit that gets more painful every year. A modern system is all about cutting the drama, not adding to it, It should make security dead simple, rock solid, and a breeze to manage. You don't want any surprise headaches down the road.
How do outdated or legacy access control systems impact a building's ability to maintain consistent and reliable security over time?
So, Megan, here's the kicker. Many of the older systems don't support modern encryption standards, remote management, real time monitoring, all of which are essential for protecting facilities in today's climate. So, holes go unnoticed until it's way too late. Plus, as the tech marches on, getting parts or service for those dinosaurs, it gets a lot tougher and pricier. Meaning, one day you'll wake up to a dead system and a frantic emergency upgrade bill. Building owners may be forced into costly emergency upgrades when some of these systems finally fail. And trust me, nobody wants that because you're always scrambling to fix stuff on the fly. You never get to upgrade on your own terms. You're stuck fighting fires. So here's the bottom line. Outdated systems, they just don't fall behind. They make it a nightmare to keep your security tight and steady over the long haul. Architects, engineers, the specifiers out there, contractors, and facility managers, they need to be aware of these facts.
What emerging technologies are overcoming the limitations of physical access credentials?
Think about it. Biometric systems are stepping up where those old plastic cards drop the ball. With face scans or fingerprint checks, you're almost guaranteed to know it's really you at the door. Card readers, they're only going to tell you that the badge is valid. They're not going to tell you who's holding that badge. But your face or your fingerprint, you can't lose that. I know it sounds silly, but you can't lend it out. You sure can't clone it very easily. So that's why biometrics, they take security way beyond what these access cards and fobs could ever do. And with the biometrics, it's pretty easy. Instead of the endless cycle of printing cards, tracking the cards, deactivating badges, you just manage people's identities straight up. The top tier systems even let you keep an eye on things in real time, and you can tweak things remotely, which is super convenient. If you've got a lot of sites in different locations. So remember a few years ago when they tack on a card reader just to back up the biometric? That's pretty much ancient history now. Today's sensors are solid enough on their own. And here's the deal. Biometrics give you the sweet spot of tougher security with a lot less hassle. It's something those old card-based systems, they really could never pull that off.
What roles can biometric technologies such as face, fingerprint, or palm recognition play in strengthening physical security strategies for today's modern building designs?
When you switch to biometrics like face scans, fingerprints, or palms, you're actually checking that the real person is who they say they are. That's something a key or a fob or a badge can't pull off. There's no more worries about lost cards, stolen cards, borrowed credentials slipping through. If you're in the system, you get in. If you're not, you stay out. So, modern setups, they log every single interaction in real time, building a searchable trail of who came and went into the building. There's no manual logbooks and there's no guesswork. So, design professionals, here's a neat bonus. Those new biometric systems, they plug right into your building's network. You can plan it alongside your IT setup and suddenly you're slashing material and labor costs because you're not lugging in extra panels or wiring everywhere. Better yet, your access control can tap right into the same backup power and data protection protocols you already have. There's no duplicate gear. There's no extra headaches. It all adds up to a leaner, better, tougher system that plays nice with your existing infrastructure. And here's something to think about. Plan up front. Nail your design early. You've set yourself up for the long haul. Network-based biometric systems aren't just fancy, they're future-proof. As tech evolves or new rules pop up, you're not ripping out your walls, you're not dropping thousands on upgrades. You just push a software update. You build smart and adaptable from day one, and your building stays locked down, efficient, and ready for whatever curveball comes next. Security that frustrates users will eventually be circumvented, and the goal is to design for both safety and your sanity.
How does incorporating multi-factor authentication improve access control in sensitive or high security environments?
That's a great question, Megan. Think about it. Multi factor authentication cranks your security up a notch by asking for more than one proof point before you get in. It's that extra, are you really you step? And a fun fact, it actually dates back to the early days of biometrics. So think of it like this: rather than just asking for your face, your fingerprint, or a PIN, the system hits you with two or more checks. Maybe you flash your face and then your finger, or you scan your palm and punch in a pin. That extra step is like bolting a second door on your security measures. If one factor somehow gets compromised, the other's still standing guard. Unauthorized access, it's almost impossible. So the real advantage is that an intruder would need to defeat multiple independent security checks all at once. That's exponentially more difficult than just cracking a single password or duplicating one credential. What I find particularly clever is how these systems balance security with the user experience. They found that the sweet spot is where you can have robust protection without making the legitimate access process overly complicated or frustrating for the users. So looking forward, this flexibility is it's incredibly valuable. Modern systems can easily adapt to different combinations of credentials, which gives security teams and building owners the ability to respond to evolving threats without having to rip out and replace entire infrastructure. Nobody wants to do that. We're even seeing this in multi authentication approach in some really unexpected places. Take high voltage areas, for instance. These are zones with the serious warning signs. We've probably all seen them. Many now require multiple users to authenticate simultaneously before access is granted. It's the same principle at work, using multiple checkpoints dramatically to reduce risk, whether we're talking about protecting sensitive data or preventing electrical accidents.
How can biometric systems help address risks like tailgating and unauthorized entry, especially in busy public buildings?
Tailgating can be a real big headache, Megan. I'm talking about that moment when someone without proper authorization just casually strolls in behind an employee who's legitimately badged in. It happens all the time, especially in high traffic areas. And honestly, it can be tough to prevent. But here's the thing: biometric access control is really changing the game here. These systems are pretty remarkable because they can actually authenticate each person individually. They can do it quickly, which is very crucial during those morning rushes, shift changes that are at buildings when everybody's pouring out of a building or through doors at once. So, when we think about the big picture, the planning process, this strategy really opens up possibilities. Design professionals and planners can actually create spaces that don't feel like fortresses. I mean, we're talking about maintaining really robust security without having to sacrifice all those things people care about, like the natural flow of movement, everyday conveniences, even the look and the feel of the space. And here's what I love about these systems is that they're incredibly flexible. So when a building's entry patterns inevitably shift, or when you suddenly have more people coming through those doors, the system can actually adapt right alongside those changes. It's essentially future-proofing both your security approach and the physical space itself, which, let's be honest here, it saves massive headaches down the road. What's really cool is that some of the more advanced systems we're seeing now can actually detect when multiple people are trying to slip through on a single authentication. And when that happens, boom, instant alerts are sent to the security team in real time. The difference between a security incident and a security breach is often measured in minutes of response time. And really, the most valuable security information isn't who got into the building, but who tried and failed.
What special access control measures are needed for areas with elevated risks, such as data centers or laboratories?
When we talk about those high security spaces like data centers, research labs, we're dealing with a whole different ballgame. It's just not, do you have a credential, but are you really supposed to be here? That's why biometric verification is so powerful. It ties access directly to the person, just not something in their pocket like a piece of plastic. So, for these sensitive areas, you really want to consider ramping up to multi factor authentication and real time monitoring. This can be, crucial for some of these very sensitive sites. It lets security teams catch problems instantly. Some systems are smart enough to automatically lock down areas or alert staff when something looks really sketchy. And that's pretty helpful for facility managers, for building owners. When planning these high security spaces, what we're really talking about is creating layers of protection that can respond and adapt to new threats without turning it into a nightmare for the legitimate users, the people that should be there. The beauty of modern biometric systems is that they strike that perfect balance between security and the efficiency you absolutely need for these critical operations. And let me tell you, today's biometric systems are light years ahead of the stuff that was around 10 or 20 years ago. They just slide right into your existing network infrastructure, which means you can handle everything remotely. The management, updates, adding new users, it's a much, much smoother process now. So this takes a huge weight off your IT team and your security team. And plus, when your facility needs to grow, your access control can scale right up along with it. There's no more ripping out walls. There's no more adding new wiring or replacing entire hardware systems. In very sensitive environments, the question isn't whether you can afford advanced security. It's really whether you can afford the consequences of not having it.
How can the advanced biometric systems integrate with building-wide management and security platforms?
That is a major topic today, Megan. So, biometric access systems are network powered and built specifically with integration in mind. They run right over IP networks using open standards so they can talk to all your building management systems, your HVAC, lighting, energy management, the works. And what's cool is how this enables smart responses. Like when somebody enters a space, the system can automatically adjust lighting or climate control based on the access event. Now, the way these systems integrate with video surveillance and emergency response is kind of a game changer these days for real-time monitoring. You can imagine this. Someone scans their fingerprint for access and nearby cameras automatically start recording. Or if somebody unauthorized tries to get in, the security personnel can get an instant alert. When you get all these systems working together, you're looking at facilities that run smoother, they stay more secure, and they can easily adapt to whatever tech or regulations come down the pike. It's not just about better safety, you're also looking at significant energy savings and really lower operational costs.
What design strategies can build redundancy into access control systems to maintain operation during technical interruptions?
Here's the thing, modern biometric access control is actually pretty clever when it comes to flexibility. These systems store all the biometric data right on the device itself, which means they can keep working even when your network decides to take a vacation. So if connectivity drops, your doors still function perfectly. People can authenticate, they can access events, these get recorded on the reader. And once the network's back up, all that stored data syncs to your database. There's no information lost and there's no security gaps. What's also neat and helpful is that these systems play with existing IP networks. So this allows for power over Ethernet or PoE, as the tech folks call it. Basically, you're running power and data through just one cable. It's a pretty elegant solution. So when you pair this with uninterruptible power supplies, your access control keeps humming along, even during power outages. So when design professionals and facility managers, they think about um, local processing and backup power, they're essentially creating systems that just won't quit, even when unexpected technical hiccups try to throw a monkey wrench into the works.
How can access control systems that meet ROHS standards align with broader sustainability initiatives, such as LEED certification?
Sustainability is very important these days. Design professionals should consider access control products that are ROS compliant. This means that they're built without hazardous materials like lead or mercury. And that's really a big deal for design professionals who are focused on sustainable design, like LEED projects. While the ROS system itself doesn't directly earn or contribute to LEED points, it supports the overall goals, things like using safer materials, improving the indoor air quality, and making it easier to responsibly recycle these components at the end of the product's life. So when you choose biometric systems that are ROS certified, you're not just getting advanced security, you're also making a healthier, more environmentally conscious choice for the building and the occupants who use it.
How can design professionals plan entry points to seamlessly incorporate advanced access control technologies?
I would say the key word here is planning. So you've got to think about advanced access control early in the design phase, not as an afterthought once the walls are already up. Design professionals really need to understand those local codes and work with them from the very start. Typically, you want a reader device at about 48 inches for facial recognition, a bit lower for fingerprint scanners, and always with good lighting and clear sight lines. If your reader isn't IP65 rated for outdoor use, you'll need to think about protective covers or recessed mounting to shield it from weather while keeping it working properly. Now, what's great about modern access control is that it runs right on the building's existing IP network. It shares the same protections, backup systems, and cybersecurity standards. This means that you can ditch all that redundant cabling and the separate wiring, which honestly saves a fortune in labor and materials. And you can design your access control and network layouts together, making sure that those network and power drops are positioned early for a clean installation.
Can designers create intuitive entryways that facilitate smooth interaction with biometric or advanced readers?
The great thing about modern access control is that it actually needs very few special accommodations as long as you plan for it early. Today's biometric readers are compact, they're network connected devices, they're designed to really blend into any environment. So when you place them at natural entry points and mount them at the right height, they don't disrupt the flow and they don't force those awkward architectural workarounds that some people have. So designers don't need to create special structures or clunky fixtures anymore. Instead, it's just all about aligning the tech with how people, naturally move. Clear sight lines, visible indicators, quick responses that intuitively guide the people. And with smart placement and good signage, users, rarely need instructions. They just flow through this naturally. The best access systems are like, I'd say referees in a sports game. When they're doing their job perfectly, you're hardly going to notice they're even there. They work quietly in the background while supporting both the aesthetics and function of the space. And really, that early planning lets design professionals integrate rock solid security without sacrificing great design. The most expensive words in building security is "we'll add that later." Security as an afterthought is always more expensive, it's more intrusive, and it's less effective than security by design.
And what steps can be taken to ensure that access systems maintain accessible to all users, including those with disabilities?
So here's the thing, accessibility really comes down to early planning and understanding those local codes, especially ADA requirements. The good news is that today's advanced access systems can absolutely support inclusive design if you're thinking about the space, placement, and features from day one. Things like adjustable mounting heights, clear visual and audio cues, and intuitive interfaces make these systems work for everyone, regardless of ability. Touch-free tech like facial recognition is really particularly helpful for folks with mobility or dexterity challenges. And if you choose the right access control system, lighting for face or fingerprint readers won't be a big issue. But from the user experience, poor lighting around devices that need good illumination could definitely cause some issues. So, working closely with your building's accessibility consultant or following ADA guidelines, this will help ensure your final solution checks all the boxes for compliance and makes it user friendly. So, really, the bottom line is that design professionals need to design systems that welcome everybody. With some early planning and a little bit of foresight, design professionals can create access control that's both secure and accessible. And building security that doesn't work for everyone, really doesn't work. When we design access control systems, we need to remember that security and accessibility, they're complementary necessities and they can actually strengthen each other.
How does user experience improve when moving from a traditional credential to biometric or touchless solutions?
Moving to biometric or touchless access really transforms the user experience. People don't have to deal with carrying, swiping, or scanning their cards or badges anymore. They don't have to stress out about forgetting their badge, losing their key, or touching those shared surfaces. Instead, the system, it just works. It recognizes you automatically, and often, in less than a second, it grants access without any delay. This makes entry quicker into a building, more hygienic, less stressful, especially in those very busy areas or places with strict cleanliness rules. The COVID-19 pandemic didn't create the need for touchless security, it simply revealed it. Users love not having to dig through pockets, purses, backpacks for a card and remembering, yet another PIN number. It just feels like a natural part of walking through the building. So from a design angle, it really cleans up the space too. There's no need for those clunky card reader stations, badge lines. What you get is a smoother flow, a better convenience, and a more modern feel throughout the building and the space. All while keeping this security very tight.
What impact do touchless biometric systems have on hygiene, especially in high-traffic public environments?
That is a great question, Megan. Touchless biometric systems, especially facial recognition, they offer a huge hygiene advantage in busy public spaces. So, environments like a hospital, a school, transportation hubs where thousands and thousands of people move through these areas daily. Um, you know, Avoiding shared surfaces isn't just convenient, it can be a healthy priority. So, by eliminating the need to touch keypads, card readers, or door handles, these systems help cut down on germ and virus transmission. And this matters enormously in facilities with vulnerable populations, strict cleanliness requirements. The best security measures protect not just your building, but the health of everyone who enters it. So, touchless access also gives the users that peace of mind they're looking for. When people feel safer using a system, they're much more likely to use it consistently and correctly. And for design professionals, this just means, you know, fewer physical contact points to clean and maintain, which is another win for operational efficiency. These are things that design professionals need to think about when they're considering access control systems.
How can biometric access systems be designed to accommodate high throughput scenarios to avoid creating bottlenecks or delays?
When security creates congestion, it transforms from protection into frustration. We've all experienced this at different places going into a building. And in those high volume environments, access control has to be lightning fast. It has to be seamless. Otherwise, you're looking at bottlenecks you're looking at operational headaches for the security team. So, biometric systems are perfect for this challenge, especially when designed with speed and natural movement in mind. The systems today, they can spot a face from several feet away. They can recognize people in under a second. This lets everyone move naturally through an entrance without the stop and scan dance or waiting in those frustrating lines. So when you place these devices smartly, aligned with how people naturally walk and with clear sight lines, you can authenticate large crowds very quickly and efficiently. And for those super high volume spots, pairing biometrics with automatic doors, speed gates, or turnstiles keeps this flow controlled without slowing it down. And since there's no physical contact needed, you're really reducing maintenance and wear on all those mechanical parts. The key about this is really isn't just about the technology, it's about understanding how people interact with a given space. So design professionals, they need to plan thoughtfully. Biometric access supports both tight security and smooth movement, even when you're dealing with large crowds. And, security that respects the value of people's time earns their respect in return.
What role does lighting, environmental layout, and material selection play in optimizing the performance of biometric recognition systems?
Modern biometric systems using face recognition should work smoothly pretty much anywhere, regardless of lighting or the environment. But, this hasn't always been the case. It wasn't always this seamless way back when. So, back in the early days of facial recognition, lighting was a major headache. Imagine getting enrolled on a bright, sunny morning, then trying to access the building during a gloomy afternoon. You might get denied, not because you weren't authorized to enter the building, but simply because the system couldn't handle the lighting changes. So this created tons of frustration and headaches for users, and it was a real big challenge for design professionals. These days, the good news is that the technology has finally caught up. So today's systems should handle everything from bright sunlight to dim indoor lighting without missing a beat. And this makes designing secure spaces a lot easier. You don't have to stress about what the weather's doing outside, and you don't have to worry about unpredictable lighting conditions.
What special challenges and solutions exist when integrating advanced biometric access systems into an older building?
That is a great question, Megan. Integrating advanced access systems into existing buildings can definitely throw you some curveballs, especially with tight spaces or outdated infrastructure. But here's the thing: rerouting network cables and securing nearby power sources will actually meet the needs of a modern biometric system if it runs on the network. Design professionals shouldn't forget wireless options when they make sense in different buildings and spaces. And choosing, compact biometric readers that work with existing door frames helps you avoid major structural changes. The good news is probably that many modern biometric readers are built exactly for these retrofit situations. They're slim, they're IP based, and they often install with minimal disruption. So, in buildings already using card based access, biometric readers can frequently just replace the card reader, and it gives you facial or fingerprint recognition without replacing the entire cabling and panel system. Wireless communication can be a real lifesaver in several buildings and spaces too. This makes it possible to seriously upgrade security without starting from square one. So, with smart planning and the right hardware, bringing modern biometric access to an older building, it can be efficient, it can be cost effective, and it's way less invasive than most design professionals or owners might think. And it delivers advanced functionality without really the complexity a lot of people might expect.
How can designers reduce user confusion and potential errors during access control system use?
Minimizing the user frustration, that experience, it starts really with solid planning and choosing the right technology, plus thinking through how people will actually interact with it. So modern biometric systems, they help eliminate those common headaches like lost or glitchy cards. And instead of digging through, your pockets, for credentials, ladies digging through their purses, the users get identified instantly through facial or fingerprint recognition. So it makes this whole process smooth and stress free, but it all really comes back to having a good plan from the very beginning. Technology alone is not the full answer. Good design ensures that the experience feels intuitive. And this means placing readers at natural, accessible heights, providing clear feedback when authentication succeeds, and really keeping the process as simple as possible. You need clear signage and consistent placement. This can help everyone know exactly what to do, even first timers. And the ultimate goal here really is to make secure access feel effortless. By planning early and selecting systems that are fast, accurate, and user friendly, design professionals can reduce errors, they can improve the flow, they can keep costs reasonable, and they can create a better, user experience for everyone, whether this is employees or visitors. The art of modern access control is really verifying identity without interrupting the momentum.
What strategies can design professionals employ to future-proof building designs for upcoming advancements in access control technology?
Future proofing really comes down to good planning and smart product selection. How do you move forward without, those massive upgrades we talked about? By building flexible infrastructure, things like extra conduit, modular wall panels, and scalable network capacity, so your buildings can adapt to evolving technology without having those invasive, disruptive upgrades. So, since modern biometric systems run right over the network, one of the smartest ways to future proof is planning for a flexible, scalable infrastructure from day one. And that means really extra bandwidth, additional cabling pathways, and sufficient power at key access points, even if some of the spots won't be used immediately. Now, buildings evolve over time, we know that, and technology moves even faster. And with AI making biometrics faster and smarter every year, it's crucial to leave room for easy upgrades down the road. So features like modular wall panels, accessible network closets, and flexible mounting options, they make a world of difference down the road. I always tell clients, think of your network like the building's foundation. If it's strong and adaptable now, it'll support whatever comes next.
What infrastructure components should be included during construction to support scalable, flexible access control?
Ethernet cabling to each access point, backup power systems, and dedicated network segments for security devices. That's what lets you expand easily as your needs grow. And in those tricky spots where running cables isn't just practical, plan for wireless network coverage from the very start of the project. This is really the core of future proofing, making sure your access control systems can scale when you need to grow later on. And with this approach, you'll be able to expand without those painful excess costs way down the road.
How should design professionals plan for maintenance access, system upgrades, and future modifications within building plans?
When's the best time to think about system upgrades and maintenance? Well, I would say right at the beginning, during the design phase. To avoid those expensive future renovations, place your access control hardware where it's actually serviceable, not buried behind walls or locked inside hard to reach enclosures. Using conduit for cabling or designing with wireless or hybrid network options in mind. This makes future upgrades a lot simpler. It lets you add new devices or replace originals without having to tear into finished walls or rip apart ceilings. And don't forget to allocate some extra space in those telecom closets or drop ceilings. That foresight can save really serious time and money down the road. It all comes down to thinking ahead. How do we evolve without those massive disruptive upgrades? Smart planning today means, your building can easily adapt to new technology, changing standards and evolving needs, all without turning the place into a construction zone later.
What considerations should be made for integrating advanced access control systems into modular or prefabricated building components?
When you're working with modular or prefabricated components, early planning is absolutely crucial. So embedding connection points, your network cables, the power conduits, the mounting hardware directly into the walls or the panels during fabrication. This helps you avoid all those complex on-site wiring issues later. And this approach really means your biometric readers and your electronic locks, they can go in quickly once the modules are assembled. So in most cases, all you're going to need on site is the actual biometric device and standard lock sets. This is really minimal extra labor. This not only speeds up the installation, but ensures your access control systems work perfectly the moment people move into the building. So planning access control right alongside your modular fabrication, this gives you a much cleaner design. It lowers the cost. There's faster project timelines. Plus, it's still going to deliver that advanced adaptable security that your building needs. And this can also evolve with your building's changing needs down the road.
How can modern access systems be designed to adapt easily to changes in building occupancy, use, or security needs?
When planning a building, it's definitely realistic to expect it'll undergo many changes throughout its lifetime. And that's really where modern network-based access control systems really shine. They're built for flexibility. Devices can be reprogrammed remotely, letting the administrators quickly add or remove users. You can update the permissions. You can even relocate biometric readers without, major rewiring or construction work. So compared to traditional hardwired systems, the network biometrics make it much easier. It's more cost effective to adapt and to change, whether that's, shifting occupancy. You might have to repurpose a space or a building or upgrade security protocols over time. And, you got to remember biometrics aren't just for opening doors. There's a lot happening behind those doors. The same technology that can handle time and attendance tracking, emergency mustering systems, and even control access to specialized equipment. So this multifunctional approach means your core infrastructure, it keeps serving new purposes as operational needs evolve. And this is going to save owners both, time and money. By designing with adaptability in mind from the start, design professionals, can choose modern access systems. They can ensure that a building's security grows and changes right alongside the people that are using it. And that's really long-term thinking.
Could you share examples where advanced access control technologies, such as biometrics, helped solve specific building or security challenges?
That's a great question, Megan. I know Annette and Richard would like to share several case studies of projects they've worked on over the past several years. They definitely have a wealth of experience to share with design professionals, so let's hear what they have to say.
One of our favorite customers was the Old Time Produce, which is a woman-owned company. They're out of St. Charles, Missouri. They're a food distributor, and they have been using our biometric access controls since 2016. That's almost 10 years. When they built their 60,000 square foot state-of-the-art distribution facility. The facility is equipped with cutting-edge technology with focus on lowering their carbon footprint. That means they want the vegetables to come in the facility and leave there fresh. Come in fresh, leave fresh. They have biometric access control units throughout the facility that ensure that only authorized persons can move throughout the warehouse and office training center. Even the visitors, contractors, and truck drivers are required to electronically sign in. They even note on their webpage that biometric access control system is one of the technologies that helps them achieve their goal of lowering their carbon footprint.
A little bit more about this particular customer or client is the number of doors they have in their code. Basically have over 68 doors at present that we are controlling with the correct software and the correct biometric device. And they have not had any failures in that time frame.
One of the interesting things they do is for people that want to go outside and smoke, they time how long they've been outside. Another thing I want to talk about is a daycare customer. They needed for their doors to stay locked at all times for safety, of course, but they also use the readers so that if you could come in the front door, that means that you were authorized to pick up your child. Another particular interesting case that I want to talk to you about is an orphanage in Raymondville, Texas, that is our customer. This orphanage is housed in a renovated Walmart store. It's a very large facility. They have more than 600 employees, and it's a round-the-clock operation. The biometric access control system has two tasks. Number one, it's making sure that only authorized persons enter the facility. The second task is to make sure that only authorized employees have access to the areas where the children are living.
Well, basically, they have about 38 units going through there. Of course, once you get in the lobby and you try to go out any place else, you have to go through a biometric reader. They also have an outside playground that to come back in, they need to pass through their biometric door. And basically, they have quite a few dorms in that particular building. They use face recognition on the dorms where the caretakers basically are the only ones that can go into that facility or the dorms when the children are there. They also provide training for these kids. So it's a very high class thing, and it's basically an orphanage that was designed for the government house orphanage for that particular area.
One thing that might be of interest to a design professional is that system was installed while they were renovating the building. It was a lot of confusion there, but the system got installed and was ready to go when they got their first group of children that came in there to be taken care of. Another thing I wanted to mention is one of our first customers is an office building here in San Antonio. Our system has been in service in that building for almost 20 years. They use the access control system to control several entry doors, control their server room doors, and they have a special lounge area there. There have been a lot of changes to personnel and people, but the system is still in and the system continues to work.
The people come in, present their fingerprint to open up a sliding glass door, and another one where it's just pull the door open and get in. And of course, they have a big co-location or server room. They have two of them that their fingerprint devices are manage people and make sure only those authorized to go inside those areas are allowed.
Annette, Richard, Brad, thank you for taking the time to share your expertise and wisdom with us today. We really appreciate you joining us on the Spec Shaman podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Spec Shaman podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our show and leave us a review. A huge thank you to our guests who made this show possible. Building product manufacturers who want to increase their specification opportunities, please visit specshaman.com or ronblank.com. Thanks all for this episode, folks. See you next time.